I want to welcome you to the Mortgage Mindset Podcast. This is hosted by Loan Factory. My name is Rafael Acosta. I am an advocate of Loan Factory. I am a loan officer with Loan Factory, and this is a new project that we're starting. And I want to welcome Edward Arvizo. Is that how you pronounce the last name?
Yes, sir. You got it.
All right, cool. And he's our first guest on the podcast, and I'm so
I'm excited too.
that's awesome. He's well known within the Loan Factory umbrella as well as the mortgage industry. So the fact that you took the time on such short notice to kind of hang out with me today and just kind of talk to me about your experiences and your feedback about the mortgage industry, I really appreciate your time. I really do.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this. Let's go.
So tell me a little bit about who you are, where you come from, family, friends, what you do for fun, and how you got started in the mortgage industry.
Wow, that is a lot to unwrap. Yeah, I started in the mortgage industry by accident. I didn't wake up or I didn't go to school thinking, man, I want to be a mortgage professional. So probably a lot of people, right? Like they run into this gem of an industry by accident, but it's the best kept secret, let me tell you. But I started in 1997, kind of showing my age here. But 1997 is when I started, and again, it was like accident. I was going to the University of Arizona and just ran out of money. Uh, I come from a family that's second generation immigrants, and just trying to make things happen, going to the university, having a full-time job, doing everything I could to make ends meet. And I just couldn't make rent. I could do everything that you could think of as far as where I got my entrepreneur skills. Like I remember I was in a fraternity and I rented a place right across the stadium. I would charge for parking. I would host parties after the football games and charge. And I just, at the end of the day, one day I just said, man, I just can't do it anymore. And just got a call one day from a friend and said, hey, what are you doing these days? And we're over here crushing these sales on that. They were selling mobile homes. So they said, we need a finance guy. And I said, you know what, man, like, I don't know anything about that. But then he told me the numbers of how much they were making. And I said, you can't make, at the time it was like $10,000 a month. And I said, there's no way you're making $10,000 a month. And then I said, tell you what, if you could show me your paycheck stubs for one full month, and I'll go work. I'll drop out of college, which I had to anyways. I couldn't make tuition for the following semester. So yeah, I started doing that, and at the time it was manufactured homes. Nobody was doing them at the time, and it was land home packages for manufactured homes. That's where I got started in the mortgage industry, and then the rest is history. I could go on and on for different sorts of stories, but everything evolved from that. So that's where I got started in the mortgage industry.
Wow, that is a crazy story, man. So you're what, in your early 20s at this point?
Yeah, man, I was like 20, yeah, 23. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And for you to ramp up in the mortgage industry and learn the industry, right? Because you came from not even knowing the industry. So you had to go through the learning curve. I'm sure your friends kind of mentored you and helped you out, but do you recall more or less how long it took you to ramp up to where you were producing the $10,000 a month that they sold you on?
Right away, because it was right away. I got into the fire and nobody knew what they were doing. It was brand new. Nobody knew these packages existed because we're at the time they were just doing trailer loans. But then the town was so small at the time. Now it's a different story, obviously, but they were selling these regular residential lots. They were subdivided for manufactured homes, and those lots were selling for like 10 to 20,000. And then we would slap on, either a single wide or double wide so the package was like 100 grand, and they were selling like hotcakes. They were just like boom, 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 turning and burning. So I just, it's kind of an anomaly, and most people don't start this way.
Mhm.
But it was just, geez, working long hours, getting everything funded. And nobody really knew, like, it was just, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to collect this, we got to get these documents, and now we got to get title companies involved. And it was just a big challenge and fiasco. And everybody kind of didn't know what they're doing because it was just so new. And then obviously, ebbs and flows, right? You're always going to have cycles, and you're always going to have challenges. So my first cycle or first challenge, if you will, is like everything stopped. Everything stopped. There was a time where interest rates went up again, and prices weren't what they used to be, and now these manufactured homes weren't moving. They even like managed um, different dealerships across the state. And man, there's just crazy stories. Obviously, at the time, I'm like, okay, what's the next step? Because this is all tapped out. Like, I'm not making even half of what I was making before, and that was the first adversity that I felt in the industry.
Interesting. Wow. Wow. Do you recall what the rates were in that era when you first started?
I don't. I would be lying to you if I did, but obviously, I would say they were in the teens for sure.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Very interesting. Wow. Yeah, you hit something critical. That last sentence you just said about adversity, right? Because this industry, I've been in the industry since 2003. When I first got into the industry, I was straight out of college. I did graduate from college, but instead of going corporate, I went into the mortgage industry, and I thought I was invincible from 2003 until 2009 and 10 when everything kind of stopped. And I learned the hard way that I wasn't invincible. And, in this industry, what do you think is the secret to not burning out so quickly? Because there's a lot of people that don't last 20 years in this industry. They burn out way before that. What do you think allows you to still be in the game?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's not in particular because I've been around the block. I've seen a lot of things come and go, been involved in many other things as well. And the big thing that I think, even whether this industry or the other, like, you have to have a mindset that you're not going to fail. And you have to have so many reasons and a vision and some sort of roadmap that it's got to back whatever it is that you're doing. I happen to, a lot of, let me back up. You see a lot of people nowadays talk about you got to find your passion. You got to do something that where you're going to be so passionate it doesn't feel like work. Well, I don't care what it is. Even professional players love what they do, but they face adversities, right? So it's not, I found from a mentor long ago that, hey, man, whatever it is that you do, people have it the other way around. You should be super passionate as a person, and the passion should follow you. So whatever you put into whatever it is it's going to be, the passion should follow you, and you should be passionate about whatever it is that you do, whether it's the mortgage industry, whether it's real estate, whether it's anything in life that you choose. You have to have that mentality, because if not, yeah, mortgage and sales and entrepreneurship is not as forgiving as most other careers. However, when you have that mindset, when you have a vision, when you have goals, when you have a why, when you have we have different stages in life, and we can go through those, if you want. But right now, my big why for this last 2 years almost has been my wife. My wife, has been ill, and, stuff is not cheap. Surgeries aren't cheap. So that has been my big push. My big why is like, yeah, we've been in a down market, but I can't go to the hospital or the surgeon and say, "Hey, we're in a down market, hold on for a second and have the surgery done now, but, wait till this market goes up." No, it doesn't work that way. So you really have to have something to be passionate about, to overcome that adversity that's going to come, because it's going to come.
I love it, man. I think you hit the nail on the head. I really believe in exactly what you said. That passion needs to be present, or else you
Yeah.
just won't have the longevity. I'm sorry about hearing about your wife. She's going through some struggles. I
Thank
hope
you.
everything works out for that. That's tough to hear, but that's a very, very strong why, brother. So I commend you to keep your head up and keep moving forward. Now it's 20 plus years in the industry. Tell me about where you met paths with Loan Factory and how
Mhm.
you learned about Loan Factory and what made you decide to jump on with Loan Factory and make this your home.
Yeah, that's a fun story. And you would think that this is like from a fictional story, because when I look at it, it's just so crazy. But everything I believe in my heart that God is watching over us. And again, having the prayers and the vision, and asking for help, whether you're a believer or not, there is a higher source. So I have a lot of faith as well. I think that helps me through adversity as well. But what happened was, I have to backtrack this story, and you're gonna say, "Hey, this is crazy." Let me. It's worth it's worth telling the story. In 2010, and again, 2010 was not a great year, right? You know, you had the 2008 crash, and you have all that. Those who haven't been through that, I highly recommend the movie The Big Short. And The Big Short tells pretty much summarizes that time, right? And why it happened, what happened. So it's a great movie. But what had happened to me is that, you know, built a big portfolio, and I got, you know, being in the industry, and I got caught up in it. So, you know, I was trying to unload properties, I had some under construction, nobody was financing them, and just got caught. So I wasn't the only one, obviously. So I had some friends of mine, because, you know, during the cycles and stuff, I had joined a company called WFG, World Financial Group, which was like, so at the time, selling securities. I had to get my Series 663 at that time to you know, sell these life insurance products with investment portfolios, and then at the same time doing mortgages and all that, just trying to make ends meet, right? So at that time, 2010, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, same scenario, right? Just over again from like my college days. What am I going to do? But now I have a family, and I'm like, I have to make things happen. Lo and behold, I get a phone call from a gentleman, and that gentleman was an old friend of mine who had brought me into the financial industries company, and he's always smart. We're still friends to this day, and his name is Duke, and Duke w- told me, "Hey, Edward, like, what's going on? What are you doing? How are you handling this market?" And I'm like, "Duke, like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it, man. I'm taking it day by day, but this is where we're at." And he goes, "Oh, you gotta join us, man. We got you know, the old crew, the crew's back again, and have you heard of loan modification?" I'm like, "Nah, like, what is loan modification?" And he goes, "Oh, you gotta listen. I have these investment properties, and all of them are going into what's called a loan modification. They're revising the terms to make it affordable. And I have a friend named Kiran, and Kiran made this software, and this software just does everything for you. And you just punch in the numbers, and then it sends a package to the loan modification to the banks for loan modification." And I'm like, "All right, like, let's do it." So I did it for my stuff, and then we would run these meetings, like literally have hotel meetings, pack the house, and we would pitch this software. So that was very short lived. We did great. But then I don't know if you remember, but then lawyers started getting involved. You'd see all these commercials, loan modification and this and that. So yeah, that particular time in my life is where I met Kiran, very sharp individual. Going back, fast forward, this was okay. That was during 2010 to 2012. Now we're like 2022, 23. You know, things are shaky in the mortgage industry. I crushed it and killed it in the refi boom. You know, I had some VAs. We were just knocking out, you know, a bunch of refis in addition to my referral business. And that all stopped, obviously. So we were having, you know, same thing, like, what, you know, how can we recover this income? I'm in a retail, managing a net retail branch, right? So I'm just getting beat with pricing, and everything's just like not going like it used to. And what happened was, I think I was scrolling through social media, and I saw which I haven't heard from in years, right? We're talking 13, 14 years. And I saw that he was doing mortgage. So I call him up, and we spoke, and he told me about this gentleman who had a brokerage, and he was just a beast. And then he's doing this software, this proprietary software, and you should take a look, because it's the broker world. And I had been in the broker world before, which was painful, because, you know, back then you didn't have the technology. So getting a loan through and closing it in a timely manner, and most of my business at that time being purchased, is just not a good mix. So that's why I kind of stopped looking at the brokers at that time and turned into retail. But now I'm getting beat up by pricing, and, you know, brokers are back. And Kiran told me about this developer slash loan originator, best in the country. And he goes, you got to talk to him. Yeah, Ed, you got to talk to him. You know, he's worth the time. And that's how he introduced me to Tuan. Yeah. And when he introduced me to Tuan, you know, the rest was history. And again, I took the plunge and moved everything to Loan Factory.
That's a crazy story, man. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know in this industry. It really is.
Yeah, it's just such a coincidence.
That is crazy. Wow. So, now you've been with Loan Factory going on what, 2 years now or more?
It's been more. It's been more.
Huh.
I got to check. Yeah, I think almost two and a half, three. I got to
Oh,
check.
okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So give me, I know there's probably a list we could sit here all day, but give me the top two or three things, that you really capitalize when it comes to the Loan Factory umbrella. Maybe it's a systems thing that you really like or a bell and whistle. Like, what are the main two or three things that kind of keep you here with Loan Factory that are really elevating your business and you're using it every single day and they're really good tools that you're using? Just kind of give me a couple of examples if you don't mind.
I will. I'll do that. But if you don't mind, I'd like to add something before I answer that question.
Of course.
And I don't know if this is an integrity thing or again, like my how I was raised or what have you. But you said what keeps you from being at Loan Factory, right? And again, the mindset nowadays is like people give something half a year or a year, and this isn't working out. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next shiny thing. So I did my due diligence for a very long time and I made the switch. I don't make switches often, and I'm praying to God that this will be the last switch, right? Because I don't like to switch. And I always tell people, give it 5 years. If it doesn't, and give it your all, and if track it, measure it, and if you gave it your all and you can prove to yourself that you gave it your all and it's still not working out, then make the switch because grass is not greener on the other side, obviously. Even here, it's not perfect, right? It's a new company, so we have growing pains. So I wanted to make that point first, right? So I know that what's keeping me here is number one is that right? I did my due diligence. I burned the ships, if you will. I'm not even, I get calls all the time. Obviously, I'm sure you do too. I'm sure
Oh,
any
yeah.
successful loan originator,
Yeah.
right, is trying to get recruited out. But you gotta, of course, if something drastically happens or something, obviously you're not constrained to just one company. But still, if you have that mindset, that tunnel vision, if you will, the goal oriented vision, right? That's where the high producers, mostly they don't switch from place to place. It's mainly people follow them, right? But they're in an environment to where they thrive, right? Mostly because of their mindset, not because of the company and because they're good, right? So, however, when you take that into the right environment, into the right company, the right technology, then everything just 10x's, right? So if you want to look at the beauty of Loan Factory, it's that number one, it makes it to where it's really like a hybrid to where it's kind of retail and broker in one, right? And then it makes the broker world so much easier because I've looked at other brokers and nobody has the system that we have and such a simple platform. And I know it's not perfect. And I talk to hundreds of people monthly, as you, right? We both talk to a lot of people and we hear it all. And the thing about it is that still it's the platform, it just sets you up for success, but you have to be good and you have to have a non-excuse attitude and work with people and make sure that you're patient with the growing pains, right? Because what they give us is phenomenal for what is paid out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I know that's really not specifics, but I just wanted to start with that.
No, that's huge.
Um,
I agree. Go ahead.
yeah. So obviously, our pricing is amazing, right? Our pricing engine is amazing. We don't have to buy extra software for that. Yeah, it's not perfect. Sometimes you have to double check, right? But those tools right there is all you need to be a successful loan originator. And trust me, we kill most everybody, especially retail. No one can even come close when it comes to retail. And when I say that is because I managed and owned some net branches myself. So I remember we used to have to charge 5 points for govies, 3 points for conventional. And even then, the rates were even inflated on top of that. And I know that everybody runs their business different, but we should not be shy, even if we give great superior service on a purchase transaction and we're giving we're doing a lender paid comp model, we should still be super ultra competitive, if not even beat most of the competition, even at that. So
Mhm.
that's super exciting. The other is our platform with our support, kind of biased because, we're corporate coaches, right? And I think, man, people don't realize the strength and power of that. That that is just a godsend for loan originators, especially the new ones. But even those who've been a broker, or even those who've never been a broker, they have a ton of experience, but they don't really know the platform. It's just gold. I didn't have that when I came in. I had to work literally. I had to work like every day, even evenings, like bloodshot eyes, because I had to figure stuff out. And it wasn't like we had a marketplace, wasn't like we had the support that we have now. So that people need to take advantage of that. And then obviously I love the fact that we have the marketplace with all the lenders in one spot, right? Like holy smokes, you can do a lender finder, you can just within a day find out if your deal's going to go or not.
Mhm.
So, that it's endless. I know this is a long answer, but it's just so many different things of what we have and why I think that we're number one.
I love it, man. I love it. Everything you just said are probably my top 3 as well, as far as what I like about Loan Factory. To summarize it, when I made the switch from the retail world to the broker Loan Factory world, I felt almost like a weight lifted off of my shoulders because I could compete. And I felt I can now go against anybody, right? When I'm going against the competition, I felt like I could do that. Before, if I knew I was competing, I would still give it my best shot. But deep in my gut, I didn't have that confidence that I have now. Now I feel like I can structure the loan different ways. I can go broker, lender paid, or borrower paid. There's so many different things we can do now to just be competitive. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. And now I have people, my colleagues from the retail side, they call me every once in a while just to pick my brain and be like, hey, how would you do this? Because they don't have that flexibility. So they're just kind of, sitting there doing their thing in the retail side and they're successful. They're doing their thing and they're managing in that world, but they're intrigued by this world. And I can see that. And it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting. So that's awesome. Well, I mean, the market and this industry is constantly changing, right? If there's one thing that's constant in this industry is change, one way or
for
the
sure.
other. That's for sure. Tell me a little bit about your opinion with the big thing in the industry that's causing ripple effects, which is AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI. You know,
Yeah.
give me your honest opinion about AI and how this industry is either benefiting from it or could potentially be hurt by it. Like, give me your feedback on that. I'm curious to know your opinion.
Sure. I use AI now and I'm so much more efficient than I used to be because I always prided myself of knowing the guidelines. Like I would read the guidelines in the bathroom. Like that's how obsessed I was with the guidelines. The 4000.1, right? And then all the VA guidelines. And like I used to pride myself with knowing everything, right? Or at least it would catch my mind because when something would arise, like VA allows for a seller to have concessions to pay for debt and like stuff like that, just different stuff. The thing about AI is that now I just punch in a question and AI spits it out like that and it references the guideline and everything. It just saves so much time. As far as, fear is going to take our jobs and things like that. I don't really think in that fashion, right? Because you do have to adapt and you have to, but it makes you more efficient. I myself, have a team and mentees and things of that nature. So the reason that I can do that and reason I can help them better is because I can use that tool to make sure that is the loan going to go through? Are we going to have issues with this? And of course, every lender has proprietary things, overlays and whatnot. But for the most part, we have a good shot at knowing what the guideline is coming into the situation. So as far as that goes, I see more pros than cons. I also see on the marketing standpoint, I have some team members that, man, they're really into AI and they prospect with it and they even like do scripts with it and they handle objections with it. And it is kind of scary, right? Because you don't even know if you're talking to or chatting with a robot or a real person or whatnot. But all in all, I think it's all good. I haven't seen any negatives on it. I'd be curious to see any negatives, but right now I just see positives.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I agree. I think the positives are definitely there. The negatives, I haven't really seen a deep negative yet. I think it's a huge tool that we can really lean on for guidelines, like you said, for marketing purposes. It makes our life a little bit easier. Again, I wish I had it 20 years ago, so I can reference, and I didn't have to read through the guidelines of a book that was that thick in what seemed like a foreign language at the time. But it is something that I really enjoy seeing the growth of it. I think it's going to change the industry for the better. And I like the fact that Loan Factory is not shying away from it. They're embracing it. So that's huge.
If anything, we're the cutting edge on it. Like our applications are done with AI now, and it's just unreal. It's just going to get better.
No doubt, no doubt.
And the thing about it, Tuan is always a great example, right? When I came on and spoke to Tuan, is like, his mindset is like crazy, right? Like the domination mindset that he has, the volume that he still does is incredible, and we have those same tools,
Mhm.
so it's just amazing.
It is. It's really cool. Awesome. Um, Question for the newer loan officers that are just starting out in this industry. What piece of advice would you give them? Off the cuff. I know you deal with a team. I know a lot. I know you're a mentor to a lot of newly licensed loan officers. Give me a few pointers that you share with them to kind of nurture their growth and motivate them to stick it in this industry, because it's not an easy industry when you're starting from scratch. You have to have some grit, and you have to have some tenacity. So tell me a little bit about, what you would say to loan officers to kind of start in this industry.
Absolutely. So one we already talked about, right? Which is the mindset. You have to have the mindset. You have to have, a why, right? Because if not, you're gonna say, "Oh, this isn't for me. This is too tough," or that doesn't work, or whatever excuse in the book that you're gonna have, right? So that's number one. And number two is that people get the perception that we're bankers, and we have to know these guidelines, and we have to have all this knowledge before we even talk to our friends, family, or loved ones, right? So it's kind of the opposite. Like another mentor told me, like, whatever everybody's doing, do the opposite. That's where you make the money, right? So I always take that to heart. So again, that's what most people think that we do, but it should be the opposite. You should be 100%, especially for you new people out there, just finding people to put in our awesome system. Like you're going to be hunting most of the day, if not all day. Team up with someone that already knows the business, and you go out, shake hands, have people know you, like you, and trust you enough to go to your website, or you to give them your link and your QR code or whatnot, however you're going to do business, and have them fill out an application, and we take it from there. So that's my number one advice is, we're in the people business, and you have to have contacts, measure your contacts. I've done business many, many years. And if you're not talking and doing at least have 30 people raise their hand that they're interested a month, one a day is all it takes, then that equates, believe it or not, it's true. You know, 30 people who want to either buy or refinance, out of those 30, funnel's going to dwindle down to about 2, 3 loans a month.
Mhm.
So if you're not doing that, you can't expect to be successful in this business. So that's number two. And number three, obviously, is as you're, but with this awesome system at Loan Factory that we have, it's still very important. Don't get me wrong, but not so much so as if you were going cold turkey to some other company, right? Because I get it. Look, I get it. I was an assistant for 5 years before going all out on my own, 100%, right? So, because I didn't want to mess things up,
Mhm.
right? So we were super busy and everything and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't have my own branch until 5 years after the business. I was in business, right? So I get it. Like you have that mindset that I want to make sure that I know and I don't want to mess anything up. Like, and if you're at another shop, yes, that's a valid point. But you should not feel like that at Loan Factory. You should team up with a mentor, and or even if you don't, lean on us, the corporate coaches, but highly recommend the mentor better. But that's for another talk. Your job is to go out, get relationships, get leads by either referral partners or by friends and family or consumer direct. And then if you do those things, then number three will take care of itself, which is, know your products, know your guidelines, know the system, and make sure that the back end is is good to where you close on time and give great service.
Boom. That's awesome, man. Yeah. In this industry, if you have somebody to lean on or a network to lean on that'll shorten your learning curve, take advantage of it. It'll really pay dividends in the long run. And then, like you said, this is a numbers game, right? This business is about conversations. If you have a certain number of conversations, the conversations will eventually turn into deals. And it's about keeping that conversation flow going. So whether you're networking or whether you're marketing or whether you're cold calling, whatever your niche is, it's about conversation. So, man, you hit the nail on the head with that. So, I agree with you 1000%. It is one of those things.
Mhm.
In this business, I tell my mentees, I'm like, listen, don't focus too much on getting everything perfect, like you said, with the guidelines and knowing all the rules for every single loan, because every single deal to this day, I don't know how many loans I've originated, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know, but I learned something new on every single loan I originate in some way, shape, or form, because there's always something new that appears.
That's what's great about it's not mundane, right? Like
Yeah.
our industry is exciting every single day, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you can take that as a negative, but man, it's an exciting industry. And
Mhm.
shoot, I have loans blowing up right now as we speak, and it's not perfect, and there's always something, but that's why we're paid so well. Is That's why AI will never take over, right? So that's why sometimes this business seems so archaic, I don't think that'll ever go away because the selling of the loans, the complexity of the secondary market, the investors. We don't want to what happened in 2008 through 2010 happen again, right? So that phase will never happen again. So they want to make sure that loans are underwritten properly.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, even if they can get AI and technology to do a certain amount of origination for very cookie cutter deals, that's a very small percentage of the market, right? You need to have people like yourself with tons of experience that can solve fires, can solve problems, can think outside of the box, and can help people that probably never thought they could qualify, get a house and make their dreams happen. And I think that's where the value is. And like you said, the riches is in the niches. So the bigger the paychecks you potentially could earn. So, bro, that's gold nuggets right there. If you're listening to this today, please jot that down and take that to heart, because what Edward just said is really strong advice. It really is. So, Edward, let to wrap this up, tell me again what states you're licensed in, and if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you so that they can talk to you one on one if they want.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Arizona and I am a corporate coach. I can mentor in all states that we're licensed in. If you are interested in that, it's on a case by case basis. So feel free to reach out and we'll have a chat. The other thing too is, say hi. I'm live as well as you are Monday through Friday. And if there's anything I can do to help you, that's why I'm here. My passion now, like I'm kind of like not originating as much myself, right? Because my passion is developing people within Loan Factory, and that's really where my passion really sits. Like I want to pay it forward. And if you ever need anything at all, feel free to reach out. And I know that I'm super honored, Rafael. Thank you for having me as your first guest. I take that to heart, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, man, like, if ever you need to have me on for a second time or do a particular topic, just let me know.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I will definitely bring you back. You're easy to talk to. The conversation just flowed. I had a list of questions jotted down, but I barely even looked at the list just because our conversation just flowed. And I can't wait to actually meet you in person, because we haven't met in person, but I'm sure that time will come soon, man. So again, thank you so much for your time, for being on the Mortgage Mindset podcast hosted by Loan Factory, myself, Rafael Acosta, and we will definitely be in touch, buddy.